intro so nice, you play it twice. Welcome to show 135 of the Pucknologists here on Teal Town, USA. How you guys doing? Hope everybody has all their fingers and toes after a wild July 4th. Let me let you know, Chief running fireworks at 1:35 in the morning last night. Thank you for that, by the way. Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on social media. If you listen to us on a podcast platform such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, whatever, help us out. Subscribe to our content. Leave a review. And you can find links to our social media, the podcast apps, and more in the YouTube description below if you're watching us on that platform. We're going to tell you how your subscriptions, reviews, and follows can help you win some Sharks goodies during our summer giveaway, just like Anthony and Jerry have already won. And we're going to announce a winner a little bit later in this show, along with how you can do it. So there you go. Gotta love it. Hey, you want to help support the content we deliver? Follow us on all those social media channels and use Venmo to donate if you would like, or you can use the super chat option, but we prefer Venmo because who wants to give Google 30%? I think that's what I'm saying. So you can find us on Venmo at Tealtown USA. Any and all donations are certainly appreciated this time around. Oh boy, we're going to talk about Evander Kane rumors. We're going to talk about some recent comments from Sharks president Jonathan Becher and some recent happenings in the league, including a 1-1 tie after 2 periods of Game 4 between Tampa and Montreal. But first, let's get into it and find out who Hockey Jerk is rooting for. And there he is. Well, I think we all knew.
Yes,
literally the only thing keeping your bracket afloat.
Hey, you know what?
Oh, dude, mine was blown up after the first round. Like it was like I took Minnesota, and I took Toronto, and who played Winnipeg in the first round? Edmonton, right?
Edmonton.
Dude, I got host. I think I got 2 out of the first 8 matchups. But go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you this: it's not about the journey; it's about the destination. And after it's all said and done, I said Tampa Bay Lightning were going to win the Stanley Cup, and the game's not over. The series not over. We still have games to play, so we're not there yet. But
thank you, John.
Looking, I might have gotten this one right, and for reference as well, just because we do have a league here on Teal Town USA for the Bracket Challenge. I'm in first place.
Hey, now.
Now, that's not to say I'm the only genius, because Rob Iman, Felix, Kevin Lacey, they also picked Tampa Bay, but my total bracket was better than theirs.
Oh, nice. Nice. Well, I mean, enjoy these final games on NBCS.
Yeah, thank God.
F.U., Pierre. And it's funny that we were kind of talking about this before we came on air, is that, this is the end of the whole NBC regime. We had, what did you say, that initially the draft was going to be NBC, but they moved it to ESPN?
Yeah, so I think and I'm just sort of assuming, sort of trying to play back the tape here. The draft, the entry draft and the expansion draft were supposed to be NBC's final televised event for the NHL. And I don't know what changed, but now ESPN is broadcasting both of those. So, I mean...
Well, ESPN 2.
Whatever. It's all under the family. It's all in the family.
Yes.
Or, if you have a computer with an internet connection, whoever's broadcasting it, you can watch their feed.
Fly that pirate flag.
I think... I've seen a lot of people who worked for that network, worked for other networks, people of stature, will say, talking about...
And then others like Brody Brazil. No.
NBC's been a great partner over the last 16 years, and they've done a lot to help the NHL. And I'm kind of thinking back, and I'm like, really? This is the same organization who, up until 4 years ago, showed 2 or 3 national games per week. It's like, how are you supposed to grow the game when nobody knows when your games are on and the games are barely on? This is the same organization that put, Western Conference Final games on USA Network and the Golf Channel.
That's true.
And that's not to say that it has to be on, NBC, Channel 3 if you've got Comcast, but
NBC
at least, proper. But at least put it on NBCSN. But if you're going to stash it on the USA Network, that's not the mark of a good partner. And then just the personnel that they I let me lay into them, and then the floor is yours.
Okay.
The personnel that they've kept, I mean, I don't Pierre Maguire, I mean, there's been enough said about him, between mansplaining and
forgot about that.
Knob slobbing over stuff that I don't think a lot of people are really that into. And Mike Milbury, Jeremy Roenick, like
who else has been fired?
Just the thing, just because you've held the stick in your hand, I don't think that makes you qualified to talk about other people who hold the stick in their hand. That's just me. So I don't know. I don't think NBC has been a horrible partner per se, but to say that they've been a great partner, I got to disagree there.
Well, look, if memory serves, it was on NBC's air when Jeremy Roenick called Patrick Marleau gutless. I'm just saying.
Correct.
But the thing that I thought was funny is earlier today there was some video tweeted out that Doc Emmerich was the voiceover from, and it was kind of like, look at all the things that NBC pioneered. Now, you want to talk about like the whole behind the glass or between the glass or whatever the hell they want to call it. Sure, absolutely. Enjoyed most of that for the most part. Like they might hear some chirping. They might come across some little tidbit of information. So that part, yeah, I'll give it to you. But the thing that was getting me, it was like, excuse me, like 16 years of this and blah, blah, blah. And when we first started, it was you saw the beginnings of a guy named Ovi and a kid named Sid and blah, blah, blah. And they're talking about that. And I'm going, I remember that being on OLN, not NBC. And they're talking about, games would no longer end in a tie. And I'm going, yeah, I remember seeing a lot of overtime games that went to a shootout on Versus. So I'm going, you might want to at least acknowledge that. But
well, whatever. So here's the thing. So for those who don't know, OLN and Versus were NBC affiliates, properties, the same way that USA Network is an NBC property. The problem with that is, how are you supposed to tell everybody how great you are when not everyone knows how far your reach is?
And I didn't have a problem with them putting games on, like, say, USA, only because...
At least it's a channel everybody has.
Exactly my point. It's a channel everybody gets. When they, like, started throwing stuff on Golf Network, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Our buddy Puck Guy saying the draft is scheduled for the same time as the Olympic opening ceremony. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. You know how boring the opening ceremony of the Olympics is? It's slightly less boring than the closing ceremony, which isn't saying much.
So that's why NBC is not doing the draft anymore.
There you go.
And another thing, to go back to the NBC rant, and then we can actually talk about something interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're just going to sit here and shit all over NBC.
And the thing, NBC, every year, they would always talk about, it's NBC's championship season. They've got the Stanley Cup. They've got Formula One. They've got the Kentucky Derby.
And they might just happen to be hosting the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, they've got X and Y and Z. But the Stanley Cup and the NHL was always their, that was their number one product. And I've never seen a number one product treated like a number 4.
Absolutely right. And
really quick, I just want to interrupt.
Sure.
This one is a stick tap to Puck Guy.
Hey now.
we tweeted out on the Tealtown USA account. Let's see here. Of course, we've tweeted too much, so now it's fallen down a bit. We tweeted out at the Tealtown USA account on 6:03 p.m. that former Sharks Jay Leach might be going to Seattle as an assistant coach, and confirmed at 7:01 p.m. by Ryan S. Clark that is happening. So
we might know things.
Yeah, so stick tap to.
I don't see Sheng and Peshelka and Kurz. I love those guys.
Wanted to do a quick stick tap.
Right. Thank you. So we know where your bracket is. It's a lot better than a lot of other people. Still holding on. Still holding on. Again, if you're with, the third period has just started. Game is still tied 1-1. So anyway, let's move on. Get into what the hell is happening after we've already burned 15 minutes bitching about NBC, who, hey, they're not doing it anymore. So does this mean that Erik Landy can stop bitching about them not being able to get off a doubleheader on a Wednesday? Remains to be seen. Frank Seravalli has reported that Evander Kane has worn out his welcome again. Now, Seravalli, he's not known for clickbait, but he did just switch from TSN to the Daily Faceoff. Anyway, you likely don't work for TSN without knowing what you're talking about. So either way, Seravalli wrote, sources indicate significant friction is built up between Kane and a number of the San Jose Sharks last season, frustration that was expressed clearly to management in exit interviews. Now, I want to start here. I'm interested in the sources, considering that Doug Wilson keeps everything so close to the vest. Now, that's not to say that a player or two didn't speak with Seravalli, on background. The exit interviews with the media led some people to think that this might be hyperbolic, but I also remember more than a few times this season when Kane was involved in a melee, a skirmish, if you will, and didn't exactly see a lot of his teammates rushing to his aid. That said, we heard from the coaches during camp last January that they were very impressed with the way that Evander was helping the youth. And if memory serves, wasn't Jumbo the guy who picked up Evander at 12:30 in the morning in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Seravalli, not known for hyperbole, but it does make you wonder if this is all kind of something that goes back to Pavelski not being with the team anymore because Kane got what he wanted and got his coin, and there's Cookie, and there maybe not enough crumbs left for Pavelski.
I don't know. I mean, if the story is assumed to be true, which I think based on the fact that it is Frank Seravalli reporting it, I would say maybe there's some credence to it, but I'm all for the players in question speaking their mind, and I give full marks for being upfront and honest about what's going on. But at the same time, if I'm Doug Wilson, if I'm Bob Bugner, and you are Frederick Hendemark, and you're telling me how much Evander Kane rubbed you the wrong way, well, I'm sorry, we're not re-signing you because Evander Kane was our best player.
Again, I want to know who these sources were.
So I'm kind of thinking it must take a lot for the best player on the team last year to be a quote unquote problem. And, obviously you don't want to speculate because there's so little information that's actually known, but then your mind kind of wanders okay, is Kane going around saying, come on guys, I'm the only one doing anything? Which I don't know that to be true.
Or is Kane walking around the dressing room saying, hey, y'all got any logs I can borrow?
Yeah, no kidding.
Chief needs a loan.
I've read that, there could be some politics at play here, and I don't mean the colloquial term politics. I mean legitimate politics. It's not a big secret that Evander Kane is very liberal, very pro civil rights, social justice, all that kind of stuff, and there's some Sharks players who are a little more on the conservative side. So,
well, we know based on the likes of Kevin LeBank's Twitter, we know based on the story that Logan Couture told last summer while he was in Canada, So
And
knows?
again, I'm not presenting this as true or anything, but I've seen it presented as a possibility, and I use possibility very strongly.
Well, and I mean, it's been heard. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. But
Right.
we're not saying that that is the end all be all.
Yeah,
But
but I think when you get down to the to the pit of the cherry, if you will, it's kind of hard to have anything negative to say about the guy who is your best player, right? I mean, what could you
right.
say? Like, if you're Yoel Shellman and you're like, yeah, Evander Kane kept talking about how many goals he scored, and it's like, well, how many did you score?
I had my guy.
Yeah.
No, I feel you. So it's one of those things. What I guess we'll see how it unfolds. To rewind the clock about 7 minutes or so, Julio or Julio, depending on your location in the world. So, will the regional NBC network still broadcast the Sharks?
Yes.
Yes. Will they still be affiliated with NBC? Remains to be seen. Remains to be seen. We talked about this a couple shows ago that NBC was looking to sell its regional sports networks, but look, there's going to be somebody who comes along and says, wait a minute, you're going to tell me that we can broadcast the A's, the Giants, the Warriors, the Sharks? Yeah, that's worth a couple of bucks. But, the problem that the RSNs face is that aside from actually broadcasting the games, their ratings suck because they don't have any original content anymore. If you go back 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you had things like, what was it, Yahoo Sports Talk Live, where they would actually have a show every day, an hour-long show where they would have guests from local sports talk radio, journalists such as Kevin Kurz. You'd get a lot of different, kind of input. They put the kibosh on that I don't know how long ago. Not to mention, remember there used to be a little thing called Shark Bite and then Shark Central, and when was the last time you saw that? So
It seems to me at this point it's doing the bare minimum to fulfill a contract.
it's doing so it's like their website. It's doing the bare minimum. Like, and contractually, this is all we're regulated to do, so that's all we're going to do.
Yeah, and I remember we spoke about this, I don't even know, a long time ago, maybe a year ago, where a handful of the teams are on NBC Sports. A handful of them were on Fox Sports, now Bally Sports. A couple are on AT&T Sportsnet, and then Colorado is randomly by themselves on Rocky Mountain Sports
or
Altitude, whatever their stupid channel is called. And so you have all these kind of
NESN, MSG.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've kind of wondered, don't get me wrong, I love the NHL network as much as the next person, but I've always felt like they could do more. What if the NHL network, somehow, or NHL, whoever runs the network, they basically bought up all the RSNs that broadcast NHL, or just created their own channel. You can do that.
Yeah.
And all 32 teams are on, NHL Network Bay Area, NHL Network Florida, NHL Network Northeast, NHL Network Texas, whatever.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, if you have all 32 teams on the same regional sports network, I think it would create more NHL centric content. I think it would also, goose the numbers of the NHL network, the sports package channel, because you have all the interconnectivity and, shared broadcast rights.
Well, was it ESPN? I'm trying to think, but nothing happens. There was, at one point, I have very vivid memories of there being, like, if you go to the Athletic now, right, there, you hit the little drop down where it has cities and it says, Chicago or Bay Area or wherever. I just have this memory that at one point there was like a ESPN / Bay Area. ESPN/Dallas. And it would cover. You would go there and you want to hear about the Cowboys or the Texas Rangers or the Dallas Stars or the Mavericks. That was where you would go. And that was a big thing for a hot minute, and we haven't seen that. How cool would that be if ESPN kind of took in those regional networks? So then you have ESPN Bay Area, ESPN SoCal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if that was something that happened, I don't remember, but that's kind of what I'm talking about, where you just have, it's an NHL exclusive channel where it's, like I said, NHL Network.
But
Bay
see,
Area.
but no, not and see here's where I think you're off your rails a little bit.
Okay.
Because I don't think it needs to. I don't think it can survive NHL specific. I think it could be. You would have ESPN take over these RSNs and just have ESPN Bay Area that they would broadcast Sharks, Giants, A's, Warriors, whatever.
So let me explain to you. We'll call it Schrodinger's regional sports coverage. Schrodinger's coverage. You say an NHL-centric channel won't survive because there's not enough interest, but you could also say that there's not enough interest because there's not a big enough platform for the NHL to attract eyes.
Yeah, but it's that idea of do you want one network to serve a pretty small niche of a market, even if you're the one that's providing them everything, or do you want a network, an actual, because this is not an NHL regional network, it is a regional sports network, so it's supposed to encompass everybody in that particular region.
So what you could do, and I don't know who your cable provider is, but when I lived in San Jose, I had Comcast,
All right.
and there are a handful of channels between 2 and 100 that are useless. You're telling me the NHL can't buy a channel?
No, they'd have to be subsidized, just like shopping networks and all the other low, they all need to be subsidized by people like USA, TBS, TNT that actually get ratings for stuff. All those low, dude. I'm on DirecTV. Everything in the 500s, it's nothing but foreign language channels. I don't need these things. I don't speak those languages, unfortunately. I wish I did, but fact of the matter is I'm paying for a bunch of channels. I'm subsidizing them, even though I don't watch them. I just go back to the whole thing is I think it still needs to remain a regional sports network. We're going to need Giants, A's, A's until they move to Vegas, but Giants, Warriors, Sharks, they need to be broadcast. That's my thing. So I don't think it can be NHL specific.
I'm not saying to totally have the NHL take over the regional sports network. I'm saying the NHL makes their own channel and pulls their respective teams off the regional sports network because, NHL is a niche sport, and people at the NHL, they talk about wanting to grow the game, get more eyes on it, more fan interest. How are you supposed to do that when it's buried by basketball, which is more popular, buried by baseball, which is more popular,
but that's
buried
a
by
market
football,
thing.
which is, I know, but what I'm saying is any market you're going to look, Bay Area, Florida, New York, wherever you're going to look, you go to the average American and you say, hey, do you want to watch the San Jose Sharks versus the Vegas Golden Knights, or do you want to watch the 49ers versus the Raiders? Pretty easy choice for the average American.
Yeah.
What I'm not saying that my idea is the right idea. What I'm saying is
the
that
right now idea.
What I'm saying is that if the NHL wants to grow the game as much as they claim to, they should do a better job at stopping their coverage from being buried.
I would totally agree. Yeah. The other thing that I would add in with that as well is I would love to see the Center Ice package offer Sportsnet feeds, Canadian feeds.
Hell yeah.
That. I mean, how? I'm sorry. Look, it's I'm so everybody knows I'm not an Erik fan. Thank God that ship has sailed. But I'm not a Pierre fan. Kenny Albert's done okay, but it just goes that the Sportsnet feed is just so leaps and bounds above NBC.
Agreed, 100%. I'm watching the Sportsnet feed right now.
See? And so that's my take, is that at the very least, if with SportsCenter or any of those packages, it would be so nice if they would offer that as an option. Like, I just want to have the Sportsnet feed. It's similar to, oh, by the way, Montreal has just taken the lead. But it would be so great to see.
What a shot.
It would be so great to see, similar to like they have the Red Zone with Football Sunday Ticket, just an option that, hey, I want to subscribe to Sportsnet. I would totally pay like $10 a month to my bill if I could get Sportsnet.
So I think, I mean, I don't know all the logistics of that, of doing that, having Canadian television be available in the US and vice versa, but I do know for the COVID, you know, obviously last season and then this season, you know, the 2 COVID seasons, the NHL's been doing what is called a world feed. So
nice.
you have one crew, say Sportsnet in Canada or TSN in Canada if it's a regional game, and then in the US it's NBC, or if it's regional, you know, it's maybe NBC or Bally's or whoever. Your designated crew in a designated city filming, and then any of the partner channels that picks up that game can use that same feed, same camera angles, microphones, everything like that. And you saw that in the game where Tampa Bay eliminated the New York Islanders. Oh. I was watching the Sportsnet feed, but because they're using the world feed as opposed to NBC and Sportsnet each having their own crew there, Sportsnet was able to take NBC's audio of Brian Boucher interviewing Yanni Gourde and put it on their own channel.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. TSN is essentially the Canadian version of ESPN, right?
More or less, yeah. I mean, there's more logistics than that, but that's the blanket idea.
Yeah, see, I just like, look, you and I, few people are you going to find that fly their pirate flag higher than Jerk and myself.
Sure.
I'd be willing to pay for it. Make it available.
Yeah, and when I bring up the world feed, what I mean to do by that is this could, and we've heard even outside of hockey, how many times have you heard, you know, of a specific concept, you know, we were going to get there in 5 to 10 years, but COVID got us there now. I wonder if COVID necessitating the use of a world feed is going to push the NHL to that point all the time.
It's just that idea. Here's the thing, and then we have to move on. But my final thing is, it drives me crazy that I can't pay an extra, you know, $5 a month or $10 a month to say that I want to watch NBC, or I'm sorry, the major networks, NBC, CBS, ABC. I want to watch the New York feed of that, or I want to watch the Chicago feed of that, or I want to watch the LA feed of that. Like, essentially, like the 3 biggest media markets. It pisses me off that I can't pay an extra couple of bucks a month and get access to those channels, because I look on my DirecTV guide and they're there. They're just blacked out because I'm in a market that has those channels locally. I would love to be able to have access to that stuff. You know, it's one of the things that you've seen as part of that. Remember, like award shows, Saturday Night Live just recently started broadcasting it live across the United States, when, you know, out here we always had to wait until 11:30, even though the show had already aired 3 hours early. It's like, why do we have to wait? And Twitter, the internet, broke that door down, because it's like, oh, or YouTube, because people have watched it, already uploaded it, and it's still going to be another 2 hours before we see it on the West Coast. So it's like, just make it global and extend that. That's all I'm saying. Look, we spent a little time on Evander Kane. Speaking of EKs, our buddy Sheng Peng over at San Jose Hockey Now recently had a breakdown of Erik Karlsson and his impact on the Sharks. And a lot of his points have underscored what my issues with EK have been. To sum up that article, Sheng said that EK is good offensively with moments of greatness while being a below-average defender, and that is not somebody you put in quote-unquote highest-paid defenseman in the world territory. So basically what I'm saying is for the next 6 years, whenever EK65 screws up, it's going to be magnified on Twitter as it has been for the last couple of years, because the bigger the contract, the bigger the magnifying glass. But, Jerk, can the Sharks afford another subpar year from Karlsson if playoffs are the end goal?
No, they cannot. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and look, I actually quite like Erik Karlsson, generally speaking, as a player. But the way I look at it is, if you're taking up
14%.
Yeah, if you're taking up 14% of the salary cap, you should be theoretically relied on for 14% of the work in the regular season. I mean, the reason why players are paid differently is because they bring different things to the table. And again, I want to say, for those who maybe didn't hear me the first time, I actually quite like Erik Karlsson. And I think he's a hell of a player for the Sharks to have.
Breaking news, Tampa has tied it.
Breaking news, I'm behind you. But I just saw it. I lost my train of thought. But
it's EK.
Yeah, I just think I actually quite like Erik Karlsson, and I think it's cool that the Sharks can say, yeah, we have a really good player on our team. But at the same time, and I've said this from the very beginning, go back to September 2018, I said to AJ, I said to anybody who would listen, I said, we have Brent Burns on our team, who is 1 year removed from winning the Norris Trophy for scoring a bunch of points. Why the hell are you bringing in another one when instead maybe you spend that money on a dynamic forward? I mean, even if you want to keep it local.
Fetch me that Selke winner over there.
Yeah, but like, you think about how much, maybe not for Vegas, but definitely for the Sharks, think about how different and how much better things would be if, and again, at the time, 2018, Vegas, who needed a number one defenseman at the time, acquired Erik Karlsson, and the Sharks acquired Mark Stone.
Yes.
I think that would have been a better balance for both teams at the time. Now, obviously, Vegas got their guy in Alex Pietrangelo, so kind of a moot point. But even then, if you want to expand it, Artemi Panarin was available. If you were going to give up those pieces for a 1 year swing at the ball, why not do it for a position you actually need? But that's not the point we're making. The point we're making is that the Sharks have made their bed. They now need to lie in it. Whether or not you look at this roster and say, yes, they can make playoffs, no, they cannot make playoffs. The way they're built, they have to try to make playoffs. There's no let's take a year off. Even if your team is Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, Mark Vlasic, and then, me, you, and Rocket to fill out the final top six, we still have to try and make playoffs.
Well, look. Yeah. So, Jonathan Becher addressed the media. And you're talking about playoffs? Jonathan Becher, Sharks president, addressed the media this past week, shared a few tidbits of info. Let's hit these bullet point style. One of the things he said was he expects no attendance limitations for next season that will eventually start a few months from now in October. That's great news. I would hope not. I went to a Giants game. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was 2 days after they lifted all the restrictions for masks. And when I was there, it was about 50-50 around the concourses. You had half wearing masks, half not. Out in the seats, it's probably more like 80-20, 80 not wearing masks. But I feel like we're seeing it more and more. Today when I was out, my wife and we went and had lunch and ate indoors, and there's a few other tables that had people at it. No one's wearing masks. No one seems uncomfortable. We're all very like, yeah, double vaxxed, ready to go. So I don't see there being any limitations unless, like, I don't know, they've talked about the Delta variant. I think if we get to like the zebra variant, then maybe something happens. But
So
I feel like we're going to have a full barn.
So let me, and obviously, Southern Nevada is much different than the Bay Area. But let me tell you something.
Whip it out.
I have, and again, for those who are interested, I've been fully vaccinated. I got both my shots. I've been fully vaccinated since April. So,
how's your comfort level with wearing masks?
So here's the thing. I haven't worn a mask in probably a month.
There you go.
And you know what? As much as I definitely believe COVID exists. I believe in all of the precautions, everything that's happened in the last 18 months. I support it 100%.
Tell me you believe in science?
Right. But, I've made the joke. It seems like COVID is over in Las Vegas, but it legitimately does. And I was very nervous at first. I had my mask around my face, but it was below my chin. And then if somebody got too close to me, I would pull it up. And lately I've just been not wearing it at all. And you know what? I feel comfortable. Everybody, even though there's no masks, people are still generally following social distance, even though it's not required anymore. I think COVID helped a lot of people realize, like, hey, maybe we're standing a little too close together to strangers.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes me wonder. I haven't been. I was inside SAP a couple weeks ago for the equipment sale, but I did not visit their restrooms. It makes me wonder if those partitions between the gentlemen's urinals, I don't know if those have been extended at all, but it wouldn't surprise me if they have been.
You know what? I would say probably not, just because they haven't had an event there in forever. I mean, yeah, the equipment sale, but
I don't know. It's just something that I consider, because I just think about, I can rewind my memory back to like March of 2020, and I just giggle because all the years that I've been going to games there, and you go into the men's lavatory for,
dude, it's a gong show.
Well, dude, that it's just tons of people just waiting for somebody to stop taking a leak so they can get in on that urinal, and there's like there's 100 people waiting to take a piss, 3 people washing their hands. And then the Rona came out, and dude, it was like 4 people taking a leak and 200 people washing their hands. It was hysterical.
You know what? You've been to the SAP Center bathrooms many times, as have I. I think if you've used one of those bathrooms at a Sharks game, I don't think you need to worry about what's in the vaccine. Because I'm just saying, you got, like you said,
your immune system is A-okay.
Yeah, there's like 100 urinals in there, and they're all being used. You go to the sink to wash your hands, and the entire counter is covered in like a foot of water. The paper towel dispenser is busted open. Like 6 out of 10 guys at the urinal blow ass on the way out. Like
fucking animals going to Sharks games.
That's what I'm saying. It's literally like they may have to make a new vaccine after it's all said and done. Like, point being, to get back to the main point, I went to a Henderson Silver Knights game. I went to a Las Vegas Aviators game. Yes, baseball, shocking. No mask, no capacity caps, no social distancing requirements. And I felt good. I've been fully vaccinated since April.
I was going to say,
that's it.
Within like a week or so of being fully vaccinated, well, because it's that whole thing of the 2-week window after the second dose, right?
Correct. You have to play by the rules for 2 weeks after.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, once I hit that 2-week limit, in fact, I'll never forget, 2 weeks literally not totally to the day, but damn close. 13 days after my second dose, went over to a buddy's house who was having a little barbecue out back and little game day and just having fun seeing people that I hadn't seen in a year and a half. and there was, I don't know, probably like 14 of us felt complete, all the hugs, all the touches, everybody was double vaxxed. I was like literally the one guy who had one more day to go, but everybody else was all over the 14-day limit, and we all felt very comfortable. So
and how far we've come, because I was in San Jose last Thanksgiving. I went over to your house. I wore my mask inside your house. How far we've come, right?
Fucking A. Let's move on to the next one, because god damn, we are running late. Four-page rundown. We've just gotten into page 2.
Yeah, but you know what? We haven't done a show in what feels like forever, so I think the people were asking for it.
That's true. And Pilata's leaking.
Oh, man down.
Yeah, with a minute left.
Sell it. Sell it.
Sell it. Get that power play. End it.
Man, could you imagine that if Tampa's like, oh, overtime? Okay, watch this. Bang, last-minute goal.
Oh, we also have a guy on our team who's known for scoring a pretty key goal in overtime.
Tampa Bay's got a double minor coming here. I would just put
Goodrow, 4 minutes.
Dude, what a high stick. That's brutal. I would just, if I'm John Cooper, you got a minute left, double minor power play. I would put four forwards out there and Victor Hedman. I'd do Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, Hedman, whoever, and just say fucking light them up. You know what I mean?
Oh, big time. And by the way, for those of you I think Mitch Amaya has already bought that jersey that he leaked on. But anyway, season ticket renewals are down a little bit from the normal average, as told by Jonathan Becher. Is this a cause of the pandemic? Is this a cause of missing the playoffs for 2 straight seasons with a roadmap to being competitive, not kind of around? As Dirk likes to say, I say 2 things can be true.
Yeah, and really quick, Tampa Bay did exactly what I said. Stamkos, Point, Kucherov, Seravalli, and Hedman on the ice for this 4-minute power play. Yeah, that's the thing. COVID obviously hurt things a lot. As much as we feel good about going out and about in a post-vaccinated world, there's some people that don't feel good, and that's okay. That's totally okay. So you have a lot of that. As you said, the Sharks have been historically awful the last 2 years. That cannot be understated enough.
I know.
But the Sharks, they also have this habit of raising their prices when they probably shouldn't.
I would agree.
I think that certainly doesn't help. So you say season ticket sales are down. I say, have you looked at how the last 3 years have gone?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take a genius to figure it out.
Yes. Well, Jonathan Becher also stating that the Sharks, well, I guess it's kind of like the Shark Sports and Entertainment, of course, but lost an extraordinarily large amount of money during the pandemic. Big shocker. But remember, they not only did miss revenue from having no fans in the few games that they played where they did, but also all those games where they were allowed no fans whatsoever. But they didn't do mass layoffs. They didn't furlough people. They also spent hundreds of thousands doing upgrades to the arena, of course, like the new escalators, and that's a pittance compared to ripping out the floor of the arena for a whole new ice plant system, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth in a second. But of course, the money that it took to give Fanatics the Spanish Archer. Elbow. Get out. And for those of you watching live, of course, it's going to overtime. So they did. I mean, they lost a lot of money, but hey, Uncle Hasso threw down the black Amex and been like, "Got it, bet, no problem." And who was it during the beginning of COVID? Because you were laying into, I want to say, was it New Jersey that you were just fucking flambeing for totally screwing over their employees?
It was Calgary and it was Boston.
Oh yeah, you're right. Boston's the one that I remember. I don't know why I had New Jersey on the brain, but
and that's the thing. Nobody, we go back to that time and you can kind of compare it to now. Nobody here is saying that you need to fork over all this cash and do all this extra shit. But like, at the very least, like, hey, this unprecedented situation has totally disrupted the status quo. We should be a little more flexible at least. And, Hasselplattner, the Sharks, and everybody, there, they were exactly that. And yeah, like, again, this is another thing that I quite like about Hasselplattner owning the team is say what you want about where the team is at, but whatever it costs, like, right. But no matter what, like, and people say Hasso doesn't care, or he can't be bothered to show up. But it's like, if he didn't care about the team, he wouldn't pay for literally anything that was asked for.
Yep.
Because
absolutely. Chief literally bought me and Erik lunch one day.
Are you talking about Hasselplattner?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
In a round way speaking, but yes.
Yeah. You know what? You could leave that middle part out. But that's the thing. You say, hey, our revenue stream is totally cut off. We got no money coming in. We got money coming out. Do you still want to pay for these unnecessary cosmetic changes? And Hasso said, tell me where to sign.
I know. And, and regarding the Sharks ice, here's the part that gets me, that they ripped out the floor and a whole new plant, is Becher said the reviews from the people that matter the most, of course, being the hockey players, he said they were positive. I think based on the dehumidification system that they put in a few years ago, and now the new ice making, option, the larger pipes underneath the foundation, I think we have top tier ice. After game reports and pregame reports we see from the NHL suggest we're in really good shape. I'd like to know which players Becher was speaking with. I'm not saying that he's lying by any stretch whatsoever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that specifically, I remember in post games, we remembered that the Sharks played like all of January in Arizona. It took them forever to play a home game at SAP. And after a few games at SAP, Logan was asked, have you seen a difference in the ice? Because they ripped it all out and there's no human bodies. There's not 17,500 people. Well, let's be honest, there hasn't been that number in a few years. But, there's not, thousands of people in the building anymore. So that cuts down on heat and all of that. Have you noticed a difference in the ice? And he said, no, not really. And that just makes me, you find that comment a little distressing when it's like, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it better. There's no fans in the building to turn up the heat. And you don't think the ice was any better than what it was a year and a half ago? Yikes.
So I'll say a couple things. So obviously there's a lot of other elements to maintaining the ice that go into it. Obviously, if it rains, that changes the process. If the big roll-up door that points out to the back of the arena is left open too long, that changes the process. If the doors in the upper deck that go that bring in sunlight are left open too long, it changes the process. All that said, you've made all these very costly changes, and I'm not saying that the money spent was wasted. And I kind of said this back in 2016 as well, but
I just don't know that it had the impact that you hoped for.
Maybe you need to take a step back and think, okay, let's take a look at the crew, not the technology, the crew, because I remember being at the Sharks game, and for those who don't know, after they Zamboni the ice crew has to come out and drill holes into the ice and then suction the water out so the net pegs can sit in there.
Yep.
And I've seen it happen, and I know that this crew is still there because I've been to a game in the last year and a half. And when I saw this happened like 4 years ago. Like, this crew, they're sliding out there, they're suctioning out the holes for the net pegs. Guy dropped his sponge in there.
Jesus Christ.
and you see stuff like that happen all the time, and so it just and that's not to say that they're a bad crew. Maybe it was just a one hit, one off, but you've upgraded all the technology. They've tried to keep those doors closed. Michael knows what I'm talking about. They've tried to keep those doors closed. They've tried to, do whatever they can. Maybe you need to look at the crew at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. And quick one from the chat, which I think is just hysterical. Will tickets be a lot cheaper now? No.
Keep dreaming.
Yeah. When have you ever seen ticket prices come down? They don't. They might be frozen for a couple years. Will they ever come down? No. That's what the the tertiary ticket market is for.
Oh, I know words.
So let's get to the big one, of course, that Becher talked about on the idea of a rebuild. Becher said, "It would be hard for me to sell a 3-year season ticket plan to somebody and say, we plan not to be good for the next 3 or 4 years. It just doesn't feel right to me, and I think it would be hard in this market." Okay, that's fine. But what do you tell the informed fan, that's been a season ticket holder for over a decade and actually believes a rebuild is what is needed for this team the most? And if the Sharks miss the playoffs for 2 of the next 3 seasons, wouldn't a rebuild have been proven to be the right way to go anyway? Like, I get that you don't want to scare potential season ticket holders with the word rebuild, but at least it tells people there's a plan in place rather than limping along, hoping to sneak into a playoff spot that you'd have no shot at if the division you play in didn't suck so hard. And if the plan of rebuilding pays off, aren't you going to make that money up on the back end because of all those extra playoff games when all the prices goes up? Like, missing the playoffs over the last couple of years has to eat into that pocketbook just a scotch. And before I throw it at Jerk, I just want to throw a couple comments up about this, which I just think were hysterical from The Athletic. Frank going, "It's hard for me to sell a 3-year season ticket plan. I know what he's trying to say, and it might look worse on the page, but that is comically tone deaf. Newsflash, no one cares how hard it is for you to sell tickets." Which I thought, at that point when I read that comment, I actually thought that Frank G was a burner account for Hockey Jerk. I'm just saying. Chris saying, "I think it's less a reluctance to face reality as it is a reluctance to admit how badly Doug Wilson has screwed the pooch. Management can't be that blind to how big of a dumpster fire the Sharks have become. The fact that Doug continues to spout this nonsense about the team only needing a retool to become contenders again is at best disingenuous, at worst insulting to the fan base." And I have to agree. When I hear these things coming from Doug that, if we just get a goaltender and a third-line center, we'll be fine. I'm going, what? Like, you don't even have a top fucking 6. You have a top 4. And you're talking about a third-line center and a goalie? And that's going to be the thing that unlocks your path to the cup? Come on.
I'm not... oh, jeez. I mean...
I'm sorry. It's I didn't mean to lose it there for a second, but it's just good. We've been hearing this for this long. We heard about how 2 years ago, we expected these guys to take a step forward. They didn't take a step forward, but this year it's going to be, dude, we're not the fucking New York Mets where it's this is going to be the year that they've been saying for 30 years. Like, dude, acknowledge reality. This is like Curtis Brown syndrome. It's like, I understand you want to sell tickets, but at least if you sit there and go, yes, this team needs a rebuild. We're going to have to suck for a couple of years in order to get to where we want to be. At least when Doug Wilson in 2015 said, we need to take a step back to take 2 steps forwards. He didn't say that, he didn't say rebuild. It was a reset, retool, re-this, re-that. He wouldn't say that. But what he did when he said that, what did they do the following year? They went to the final for the first time ever, so it paid off. My point being is, like, if you can at least be a little bit honest with the fan base, I think they would support you.
Well, and it's all about money, because they say oh yeah, well, we're not going to be able to sell season tickets as well as we have in the past. Well, you know what? You know who's going to buy up those tickets? Fans who don't want a ticket package that still care to go see the game.
Yep.
How many times, and I've had this too, how many times do you go on a tertiary market and say,
I got words.
And you say, wow, the only tickets available to this game are season tickets holders who are reselling their tickets at double the value. And
not getting anywhere near that.
Yeah, and I think those ticket sales would be picked up elsewhere by your 10-pack holders, by your average Joe fans who just want to catch a game on a random Thursday. I understand season tickets, they get you the most money, but I'll tell you what, I obviously making money is good, but if you're talking about fleecing out the whiners,
hold on, making money is good? Is that what they say?
Yes, but season ticket holders, in my experience, are generally much more whiners than non-season ticket holders. But
do
whatever.
You know who I am?
And to go back to what you said, I think it's hard for me to sit here and tell you that the Sharks are only a retool away from being a good team again, but I could see it. And that's not to say that it will happen, but I'm saying it could happen. You know what I mean? If you get a average goalie, if you get a better bottom six, if your top guys step up
all at the same time,
which is you can be a better team. And I think the reason why Doug Wilson is so against using the word rebuild is because and maybe he needs to change his play here, but I think a lot of it is trying to kick the big guys in the ass.
And I'm for that, but it's like I hear, okay, so for shits and giggles, let's say that the big money guys, your Kane, your Hurdle, your Couture, your Meyer, they all step up. Okay, that's 4. What if Barabanov or Balsers, both those guys, LeBanc, all dive off a cliff next year? Like, you can't, sitting. Well, if everybody plays their best, it came off really tone deaf to me.
But
or I shouldn't say tone deaf, but just like a complete delusional sounds like a better descriptor.
So I'll say this though, nothing is guaranteed. Like you're saying, if LeBanc is better, if Timo Meier is better, if Barabanov or Balsers, or Noah Gregor, whoever step up, yes, but that's the thing. And I got into a discussion with a similar topic recently, but it's if you only filled your team with players who were guaranteed to be good, you would have no team.
No, I get that. But you get what I'm saying. It's that counting on everybody to essentially play to their money or exceed it and not make any allowance for somebody who's going to have a down year, because everybody has a down year. Statistically, it's proven. Yes.
But what I'm saying is there are dum-dums on the internet who will sit here and say, well, Timo Meier has proven that he can't be a 30-goal scorer. It's like, really? Because he's done it before.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, that would be statistically incorrect.
Oh, Kevin LeBanc, Kevin LeBanc has played himself off the team. Has he? Because he was on pace to tie his career high in goals this year. And a lot of his goals were high-value goals.
Oh, so, module mention. Watch out.
Yeah, so it's just like and even, Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's the best player in the world, maybe the best player ever.
But somebody's got to be a hero.
But what I'm saying is you're still hoping and expecting that he has a good year. Like I said, if you filled out your team with guarantees, you'd have no team. And so you sit here and say, "Oh man, we got to hope that Kevin LeBanc has a good year." It's like, well, yeah, you got to hope that any player has a good year.
Yeah, no kidding. And
and this is the thing that burns me up. I'm not done talking. This is the thing that burns me up is, and I'm not really calling out anybody in this chat, or am I? But it's like
Do it, coward.
The Sharks have been so successful, generally speaking, in their history. I mean, obviously no Stanley Cups, but they've been in the fight more often than they haven't been.
Agreed.
And I think that level of success, has gotten into people's heads where now it's like anytime something bad happens,
blow it up.
Anytime something bad happens, like they act like this is the first time anybody has or this has ever happened. And this goes back to all the big contracts are signed. I know you say with the benefit of hindsight, they don't look good, and you're right. But you know, in 2017, did Doug Wilson have a fucking DeLorean time machine or a crystal ball to see what 2021 would look like? No way. Like, you know, the thing that I always say is, oh, you want to be a good team? How dare you sign your good players? Like,
no, I feel you. And Alex making a solid point about the whole missing, you know, the playoffs in 2015 is that they signed Martin, Ward, got Jones during that offseason, who, you know, for those first 2 years was good. But
and that's the thing is the Sharks set themselves to be able to do that because they threw overboard all of their unnecessary salary cap.
But here's the thing. He announced it. He said, we're going to take a step backward in order to take a step forward. He's not saying that now. And the reason being is because he straight up told season ticket holders during a State of the Sharks thing 2 seasons ago is we cannot afford to be a rebuild team.
Yeah, because the stupid people will stop paying money.
Yeah. I
I
don't get that. I would get that if it was 1997, 1998, when fans, and see, that's the funny thing, is that those two ideals kind of diametrically oppose each other, because when they did suck in 96 and 97, the barn was still sold out because the honeymoon was still on. Fans were insanely loyal to this team. They didn't care. They were just so happy to have their own team. They didn't care. But now there's, you know, he's saying, well, fans won't tolerate that. It'll be too economically impactful on this team. And I'm going, wait a minute. This isn't the mid 90s where you had a largely ignorant fan base. You know, I'm not casting.
What do you mean? We still do.
I'm not casting aspersions, but you had, you know, whenever the Sharks had the puck on the power play, they could be in the defensive zone. You've still got 18,000 people going, shoot!
Dude, that still happens.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is that going to games over the last 10 years, it's the amount of people sitting next to me trying to explain to the person next to them what icing is has gone down dramatically. Like,
I'll tell you,
fans are a little more educated.
Let me tell you this. If the Sharks were the next year, let's just say, man, Tampa's really pushing here. If let's just say the Sharks are the 32nd team out of 32, right? If you come to me and said, hey, the Sharks are the worst team in the league, here's my season ticket package, I'm still going to every game because I'm a fan and I care.
Sure.
So to say it would hurt us economically, I think is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's not going to hurt you economically long term. You're not going to get that big cookie up front. You're going to get crumbs as the season goes on. And I'm sure you feel the same way. The Sharks could be absolutely dog shit next year. You would still want to go to games because you are a fan and you care.
Exactly. But here's my point, and then we'll move on, is would I be more comfortable going to games over the next 2 years knowing that this team is going to be dog shit in order to make the next step to get back to being very competitive, getting to the third round, getting to another final? Or am I that fan that's just kind of like, oh, I'm just so happy to be in the first round?
Well,
you know what? And getting bounced in 5.
It's like I said earlier, though, you know, whether or not you think this roster is good, or if you think this roster is good, if you think this roster is bad, regardless of how you feel,
it's bad.
Sure, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it. But whether you think it's good or bad or okay, it's still built to compete for the playoffs. They have to. They don't have another choice.
Built to complete to get to the playoffs or to actually excel in the playoffs?
I would say excel.
Current squad? I would disagree.
Really? Because you have 4 30-goal scorers in your top 6. So what team are you watching?
You have 4 players instead of 6 players in the top 6.
Okay, but you don't need a top 6 stacked with 30-goal scorers. You need 3 or 4, and then you need guys who will pick up the loose change. Hello, Balcers. Hello, Barabanov. I mean, look, okay, Tampa Bay Lightning are a prime example.
The fact that Barabanov is in the top 6, and it's not to talk shit about Barabanov because
I think it is.
He proved in his small sample size that he was here is that he can do some things. But the fact of the matter is, like, you didn't have a guy on your roster already for that? Really?
I don't know. I just think, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this team is going to make the Western Conference Final next year, but I said it last year. I'll say it this year. If the Sharks made the playoffs, I would not be surprised.
Montreal has won.
The game is still delayed for me. 2-on-1. Here we go.
There it is.
Oh, who is that?
So
Josh Anderson. There you go.
Montreal has made it just a scotch interesting. The sweep has been avoided. Thank God Montreal won 1 game at home. So there we go. And so with that, because we were kind of interested, like, is the cup going to be handed out tonight while we're doing the show? No. In fact, Montreal has another day to die, and that day will be on Wednesday. And I want to let you know that if you can't get enough of Hockey Jerk talking for 2 hours tonight, you can hear it again on Wednesday when he's on with Ian and Teal Tinted Glasses. And that will also be taking place during the game. So there you go. Game 5, Wednesday. Booyah. Let me move on here. Just kind of a lateral move. NHL Radio recently did their State of the Sharks because, as the season is completely wrapping up, every day they're doing a different kind of wrap-up. Coolius and Rupp said the Sharks will miss the playoffs next year. And I don't disagree with them, to be honest with you. I think if we get back to our normal conferences and divisions and everybody's 8-8-8-8 because Seattle's back in, Arizona moves. Look, I don't know about you, but my top 3, I'm putting the money down on Vegas, Edmonton, and either Vancouver or LA as my top 4.
Okay.
I don't, and that's the whole thing is that's saying that without even seeing what happens with Seattle. We could see Seattle go, holy crap, Vegas, hold my beer. Like Seattle could pull out some ridiculous stuff and slide into a 4 spot or a 3 spot. Or how great would it be to see Seattle win the division next year just as a huge middle finger to Vegas, right? That'd be funny.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know, going back to that topic, like, okay, the Sharks will probably miss the playoffs next year.
Well, let me tell you the whole quote.
Okay.
The Cooley said, I don't see how they get out of this, meaning the Sharks. I would rather be Seattle right now than San Jose. There is just too much money tied up in too much term.
I'm sorry, that's a stupid quote. Oh, yeah, you know who else would rather be a team that they can build from the ground up? Everybody. That's a dumb quote.
Well, you've got Couture. You've got Kane, you've got Karlsson, you've got Burns. Like, you have some talent on this team. Would you rather have proven talent? Or would you rather be like, nope, starting from the ground up? And maybe I get some decent pieces, maybe I don't. But I feel like my shot at making the playoffs is the unknown versus the known.
See, but what I mean to say that, though, is this friend of yours, is saying,
friend of
oh, I'd rather be this team that doesn't even have a team yet. And it's like, that's like
that's really blowing the Sharks out of the water.
But he's acting like this is some kind of expert, like, or some kind of hot take, and it's like, no, I think most people would generally quite enjoy building a team from the ground up. Like,
but the bigger point is the Sharks won't make the playoffs next year. It would be the first time in franchise history they'd missed 3 years in a row. Does that finally make Wilson's seat a little warm?
Well, like I said, the Sharks will probably miss the playoffs next year, but I don't think it's for sure. I mean, there's still good players on this team. Doug Wilson.
There's good players on this team. I would say, based on recent history, I literally would bet $1,000 right now that the Sharks will miss the playoffs next season. With the Vegas the way they've been, Edmonton, I think Vancouver bounces back. I think the ascendance of LA, I think their pipeline is maturing faster than they expected to. Those are my top 4 next year.
Would you like to have a gentleman's bet about that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll do this offline.
Yeah.
We'll get into the minutia of it, but yeah.
Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they will make the playoffs.
And Seattle's a wild card, so
I'm not going to say they will make the playoffs, but to say that they absolutely can't, I think is.
I didn't say that they can't. I said that
I'm not saying
won't.
you. I'm not saying you did.
Oh, okay.
But there are people out there who are saying that they absolutely cannot, and I think that's irresponsible, I think that's ignorant.
Anaheim can make the playoffs. Will they? No. If you're one of the 32 teams in the NHL, you can make the playoffs. Just membership has its privileges. Like, you have the option to get there. Will you? Based on your roster and coaching and everything, all the things that go into it? Right now I would bet that the Sharks will not.
Well, what I mean to say is that if the Sharks made the playoffs next year, I wouldn't be surprised.
See, I would.
Okay.
I would be surprised. All right. So look, based on that, then Becher saying on if Hasso ties in beautifully. If Platner expects the Sharks to make the playoffs next year, he said, "I don't want to speak on behalf of the boss, but I'm confident that he would say he expects us to make the playoffs." So I guess we'll find out if anything changes if the Sharks do, in fact, miss the playoffs for the third straight season for the first time in franchise history. And if the Sharks do miss for the third straight season, at that point, I'm not even talking about a hot seat. Is it time for Wilson to go? Because this is all on him. The contracts he's doled out. Is it worrisome? Is it delusional to hear that he thinks the Sharks are a goalie and a third-line center away from challenging for a cup? I'm not talking about getting to the playoffs. Challenging for a cup were the words he used.
I don't think they're only a goalie and a third line center away, but I certainly think those are the two places that they should start. But if you
like a new equipment guy is like not going to make the difference.
But I'm saying, and this is, if you want maybe I can help you see the light from my perspective here. So what is encouraging to me is what is encouraging to me is that Doug Wilson came out and he didn't refer to him by name, but he more or less said Martin Jones is not cutting it for us.
Finally. And he seemed to be the last one on the block to say those words.
And when I bring that up, it's because it takes a lot to say that your
goalie sucks.
Your starting goalie who has 3 years under contract at a sizable ticket, to say that he's not cutting it, that takes some pretty big ones. And how I interpret that is, if you're willing to disrupt the status quo that much, I'm not saying that his plan for the team is right, but at least it's a plan.
And again, going back to what I said earlier, season ticket holders, at least if they have the idea that there's a plan in place, they might be a little more amenable to saying, yeah, I'm going to re-up because I believe I'm ready to go here.
You know what? It's been a while since we've done a podcast, so unfortunately I'm going to have to quadruple down on my season ticket holder rant, dude. Martin Jones could start. How many games did Martin Jones start this year? Really quick, let's check the stats
40,
on this piece of shit.
Something.
He started 34 games last year.
God, I was only 34.
And he actually, you know what?
Hold on.
To prove my
started 34. If memory serves, pulled in at least 6, maybe 8.
Okay. Regardless, I'll break it down for you even more. Martin Jones faced 980 shots last year. He could have let all 980 shots in, and season ticket holders would still say, "But 2016." Do you see my point?
Yeah. No, I feel you. I just think it's just so silly because we talked about this a few Pucknologists ago where we threw up the stats and it's like he needs to be more consistent. And it's like, bitch, he's thrown up a fucking 899 for the last 3 straight years. Like, you can't get any more consistent.
Yeah, he's literally the brand rep for consistency.
No kidding.
Like
we have to move on.
Yeah, again, if they make it, I won't be surprised because there's still good pieces in place. If they can get a better goalie, get a better third line center, if they can get more out of the players who've been there before. I'm talking about Timo Meier specifically. Really only Timo Meier. It could happen.
All right. Becher, on the whole downtown west development, he said negotiations are still occurring. As of now, the Sharks have not granted rights to their parking lots A, B, and C, the ones that are attached and across the street from SAP Center. But Becher hinted that a lease extension may be part of the next phase of agreements. And this makes me wonder, do the Sharks in this city, maybe they talk about a commit to a longer term? And when I say that, it's because you go back to the mid, teens, and the Sharks signed a deal and it was like, yes, we're absolutely staying here till 2025. But after that, it's going to be year by year through 2040. And for those of you who don't know, San Jose cannot end that agreement. Only the Sharks can. And if the Sharks decide to end that agreement, they have to give a 3-year notice. So if like the Sharks wanted to move next year, they would say, yeah, we're out of here because 2020, 25, we can go. So I'm interested to see if the Sharks, because we've talked about lots A, B, and C a lot, will the Sharks sign off and say, okay, we're going to hand you over control of these lots. You can build all your stuff. You have to include in your plans some sort of parking structure, whether it's subterranean or not. You have to have parking enough for fans to use for games. But if you do all that, because Becher said anything that replaces the parking, it has to be the same or better. I want to know, though, when they do those negotiations, is part of that going to be that the Sharks go, you know what, we're not going to go year by year anymore. Based on what you're doing for us and we want to work with the city, we're going to do 3-year increments. It's like, we promise to be here through 2025. And if all is well, we'll stay here through 28 and then 31 and then 34 and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just feels like
I'm still dude, I'm still going to be the guy who sits there and goes, why the city, the Sharks, Google, everybody involved, when you look at the plans all around SAP, how a new arena was not part of the plans, to me, was insanely stupid and short-sighted.
To me, the thing that's stupid and short-sighted is the city, opening the table to Google and not even considering their long-term tenant and the I mean, if you ask me, the Sharks have got to be top 5 moneymakers for the city. No,
Dude, Becher has said that they generate like, a few mil every year for the city.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I mean, by all accounts, it sounds like things are hopefully starting to smooth out and work out, or at least inching towards smoothing out. But I don't know. To me, it's still very sus because, okay, if you're the city of San Jose, yeah, okay, maybe Google's going to slide you $100 million right here, right now. But then that's it. Don't spend it all in one
It's
place.
property tax.
Well, okay, but my point being is you're going to get that golden egg right there, and don't spend it all in one place. Or if you continue to make the Sharks happy and help them out, you're going to get 3 to 7 million per year until 2040.
Not a lot of money to sneeze at.
I'm just saying, like, and this is true in business, in board games, in anything. You always play the long game.
Dude, it's called recurring revenue.
Long game or late game. Either one works.
Finally, with the Becher announcements, or I should say the media call, Sharks jerseys. Becher said that the Sharks are not ready at this point to announce anything just yet. Hopefully he will be when we talk to him. Just saying.
I mean, we could sit here and pretend like we're excited for this announcement, but we already know what's going to happen.
Anyway, they said that they will have at least one alternate jersey and are considering a secondary one next season. So the Sharks could, in fact, roll 4 new jerseys next year. I would take
if you want to know, send me a DM.
There you go. I would understand that to mean that Stealth could, in fact, be returning as I'm wearing it. Now, will it return in its current form? Remains to be seen. Perhaps they replace this crest with a screaming shark. I think that would be kind of cool. But if a second alternate is, in fact, added, I think the Sharks would really be screwing the pooch if it did not involve the original logo. Just saying. So let's move around to the NHL. Around the NHL. Do we, Steven, do we have a graphic for that? Oh, thank you, Steven. Appreciate that. The intern is doing a good job tonight. The NHL announced that helmet sponsors will return next season. Excuse me. So we're going to see the stickers on the helmets next year yet again. What a fucking shock. During the announcement, however, it was confirmed that there will be no advertising added to jerseys next season. For me, I'm sorry, I just feel like it's not a matter of if, but when. They've already done it on practice jerseys. It's on helmets now. I mean, at this point, you might as just start a pool. Just start a pool as to find, okay, what year is are the NHL going to roll out some sort of advertisement on a jersey? Like, do they work with Adidas to replace the logo on the back of the neck with, I don't know, fucking a Honda logo?
I gotta disagree with you there. I think with how
you're way more optimistic than I.
With how much the NHL handles their jerseys with kid gloves, especially the original 6, especially anything that's classic. I mean, they created a whole line of jerseys dedicated to a modern impression of past jerseys.
Ye old NHL.
Yeah, the NHL handles their jersey pride and jersey designs with kid gloves. I don't see them throwing advertisements on there for that exact reason.
All right. The NHL has also announced that they've hired some narcissistic millennial jerk-off TikTok creator that is evidently going to serve as a special advisor to the NHL as a voice of the fans with the goal of growing the league's youth audience. It's directly from their PR statement, with the exception of the jerk-off thing. I mean,
I think that's fine. Like if you hold on, let me finish because I know you're gonna have some outrage.
Dude, who the fuck is this kid? I've never heard
Well,
of
but
this
that's the
guy.
point.
He's got
But
millions of followers. Who?
But here's the thing.
I'm not his
They're
audience.
They're not trying to you as a fan. They already did that.
You've been hooked in.
They no longer care about you. They're moving on to the next person. They're
no
trying to
longer coming up to you saying the first dose is free.
Yeah, I was gonna say no longer are they not. Hi, buy this. No longer. They've moved on, but they're trying to reach out to the younger audience, and I'm 100% with it. I became a hockey fan as a young person. My earliest memory as a Sharks fan is when Nabokov scored a goal.
So,
and
as a wee lad.
AJ, what year was that he scored his goal?
I want to say 04?
No, it wasn't that late.
No, wait a minute. There wasn't a season in 04.
Andy Nabokov scored his goal in 2002.
Okay.
I was 7 years old, and that's my earliest memory as a Sharks fan. So my point being...
Where did that goal happen, and who was it against?
It was against the Vancouver Canucks.
Where?
Puck guy will have to answer that one.
Okay.
My point being...
It was in Vancouver. Go ahead.
My point being is that I was a young fan or I was a young person who successfully became a fan. It's important because now here I am, 26 years old, doing a goddamn podcast about this team. The problem is the person they chose. Have you seen some of this hooligans TikToks? I believe there's one where he said, "I fucked your bitch," and he's flipping off the camera. I don't know many young people who talk like that.
Dude, I saw one where he said like "fuck the Habs."
Oh my god!
And I'm going, how is this the person? Like, who was the girl like during COVID who like caught a lot of fame for like making videos of like her wearing different shirts as if she's a different fan of different teams, talking to each other and interacting?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name. She's funny though.
Yeah, she can be funny, right? But it was like that I would understand. This kid, dude, I mean, I hate to use the phrase punchable face, but holy crap. It is just, I'm sorry, it's just, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I'm so sick of this like group of jerk off, like late teenagers, early 20s, where it's like their whole just goal in life is to be rich and famous for making stupid videos. You know what I mean? Stupid 30-second videos that, or copying videos that other people do, but they get credit for it because for some reason they have a slightly larger audience. Either way, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Either way, this whole idea of the NHL hiring this little douchebag to try to grow your brand, how fast do we see him get the Spanish Archer for doing something retarded? No,
they're not trying to grow the brand. I mean, they are, but not the brand as a whole. Like
they're trying to expand their. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, the demo. I get it.
And I think it's good that they were doing that. Here's the thing, and I'm not going to totally put you on blast here, AJ.
Oh, go ahead.
But okay, I'm in my 20s.
Okay, here's what Jerk is about to say. AJ, you sound a little too much like "get off my lawn." Go ahead.
Well, no, but what I'm going to say is, okay, I'm in my 20s. You're older than me.
Last I checked, yes.
So by that logic,
you call me uncle.
By that logic, you are not in your 20s.
Correct.
Why would you be remotely interested in anything that was designed for people in their 20s?
No, I get what you're saying, but I'm able to go back and think about what I was like.
That's real quick. That's
like in the 20s. I remember what appealed to me. And
really
you know
quick,
what it was? Not some douchebag with a stupid haircut trying to tell me what I should and should not like. Fuck you.
But, okay, I should clarify. This person is not for people in their 20s. But point being...
Who the hell is he for then?
He's for people who are teenagers.
Yeah, and if I was a 17-year-old kid and I ran into him in on the campus... and he was trying to tell me I'm an influencer, whatever. Dude, he would literally be like, I don't want to get into this.
This
is the kind of kid who would have gotten his ass kicked on the regular, trying to act as if, he's like super popular. Look at all the people I know. It's just this whole fucking look at me crowd that I'm like, man, I'm telling you, you were the kind of person that got your ass kicked on the regular in high school.
And you know what I will say, like, out of curiosity, I've seen some of this guy's TikToks. I've read what he's all about. He's not somebody that I would consider following or listening to at all, but I'm not who he's trying to reach out to. Therefore, I don't really care what he does.
But the content that you've seen, can you sit there and go, okay, I can see where he's going with it, or do you just fucking cringe at everyone? Okay, I looked at like 4 or 5 of his videos because I'm sitting there trying to understand it. I want to sit there and go, what is the NHL trying to do? What's this audience they're trying to reach? And I looked at the videos and I'm like, okay, they're trying to reach the absolute morons of, TikTok's audience.
But the thing is, even if it makes me, like, to say, like we like to say, two things can be true. I can understand where they're coming from, and it can still make me cringe because, again, it's not for me. If I tell you, hey man, I know you're in your 40s, but you gotta watch this episode of Barney, you're gonna be like, this does nothing for me. Why the fuck would I watch this?
Well, it depends on what the episode is,
Would you want
referencing.
Barney to explain offsides to you?
No, it's not that. But
what
I'm saying, no, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, shut the fuck up and let me finish, dude. It's like the Family Guy. The Family Guy will make references across a wide spectrum, and there have been times where they've made a reference about something that happened in 2008, and all the millennials or whatever, they'll get it. They'll get the joke. It's very funny. And I'll listen to it and I go, yeah, I get what they were doing. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But then they'll make a joke about something that maybe occurred or was a bit, something in the 80s. Like they make a joke about CDs being the new platform for listening to music, or the Rubik's Cube or MTV or other things that happened in the 80s. And I can sit there and somebody will sit there that's, part of my unquote demographic and go, dude, check this out. This is hysterical. And I'll look at that and I go, holy shit, that's really funny. But a millennial will look at that and go, I don't get it. Because they weren't around.
But I think I do agree with you, but I don't think they would get wound up about it to the point where they talk about it for 20 minutes on a podcast.
Well, see, the reason why I'm wound up about it is I just do not see, I don't know, I don't get the benefit of hiring some little narcissistic twat waffle to tell people what to think on TikTok. I mean, how many platforms have we seen go by the wayside? Snapchat. Nobody's on Snapchat anymore. People fucking hate Facebook right now. What was the other one? The 5-second videos or whatever it was?
Vine.
Vine.
Yeah, I loved Vine.
Dude, I loved Vine too for about 2 seconds. But I look at TikTok and it's like, it's the same fucking 5 videos over again. It's like, here's the prank video. Here's the TikTok challenge video that they're just complete sheep about. Here's the wait for it video. It's just the same 5 pieces of crap over and over. So just the look, I will give the NHL their cookies for trying to appeal to a younger audience. This is not the way to do it. Not to hire this little douchebag who's sitting there on one of his TikToks saying, I got to wear Tampa. I got to rep it because if I don't, my parents are going to disown me. So, yeah, fuck the Habs. That's not the way to grow the game.
No, and that I will agree with you. Like I said, to get back to the beginning, I think I think they're smart to try and reach out to younger people. And, you may not like it. You may not understand it. But like I said, it's not for you. So you don't need to like it or understand it. But the crux of the issue is that the person they want to bridge the gap to the younger people, I would say demographics, I don't know, 12 to 15 maybe, let's just say. This guy, it's not the problem is not that they're reaching out to young people. The problem is who they chose to reach out to young people.
Exactly. It was kind of like they had the option. It's like, well, we could have gotten a pile of chocolate or we could have gotten a pile of shit. Now, from a certain point of view, they both look the same. Entirely different things. Anyway, moving on. 28-year-old, boom, age does make a difference. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins signed a extension with the Edmonton Oilers, 8 years at $5.1 per. Is this a steal, Jerk? It feels like it. I mean, is this guy taking less money in exchange for term because it is an 8-year deal? Do we see Nathan MacKinnon taking a similar deal? Do we see this as the start of something across the league where guys are willing to take a little bit less money for a little bit longer term, but also to stay with a team that they think is ready to get the big shiny thing?
Well, and that's the thing is, I think just looking at the deal itself, like I've seen a couple people say, "Oh, it's 8 years." And it's like, well, who cares? Because number one, he's 28. Number two, he's got no prior injury history. Number three, he's a good player. So
Yay.
I'm not really sure what the problem is. He took a haircut on the cap hit. He took almost $1 million discount, which in the grand scheme of things, maybe $1 million compared to $81.5 million is not that big, but $1 million.
We're talking a top six winger, yeah?
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And
so, well, and the reason why I asked is like, what's Timo Meier getting?
6.
Point made.
Well, difference between, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has never scored 30 goals before.
Okay.
But,
all right.
But that's not the point.
Well, he didn't have Joe Thornton.
My point being, though, is that it's, okay, is it a little lengthy? Maybe. But he's not some bag of bones, and he's not...
I'm not saying that. But I'm
not either.
But my whole thing is like, do you think a better deal for the Oilers is 8x5 or 6x6?
I mean, I would say probably 6x6, just because you're
ends
saving.
earlier.
It ends earlier, and it's only $1 million more. But that's the point. Is not. It's not about. It shouldn't be about how long deals are. It's about the cost within a specific year. That $1 million that they're going to save can they can pick up a quality player like that. A really good player for really cheap. Let's look at Tampa Bay and let's look at Montreal, under $1 million. Barclay Goodrow, hello.
Oh, absolutely. But
Blake,
it's just a point being is that, if you're a, a middle line guy, you're not playing the top line, but you're a decent second line winger. It's the option is, well, I can sign for 5 years at, I don't know, $4 million per year with, a Toronto, Tampa, Colorado. Or, I can sign for 8 years for a little bit more. Like I can get all this big money, but I get that big fat term, but it's with Arizona. You know what I mean? Like you have a little bit more job security and financial security, but you're going to be on a team that's going to suck. I
think it's a good deal because, take away the years from it. It's less money per year, which is a win. He can play center or left wing, so he's a versatile player. He chips in offensively. And I would make the argument that he's gotten even better the last 3 years. So you look and say, wow, $5.25 million. But if he goes to UFA on July 28th, somebody is throwing him $7 million. And why I bring that up is, again, this shows you see this. You're seeing this right here with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. You saw it with Nathan MacKinnon as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you like where you are, stay.
Yeah, dance with the one that brung you.
There are plenty other ways to make money aside from your contract. Endorsement deals, sponsorships. If you are Connor McDavid, and you go.
But that's
on,
the thing. I'm sure it's probably a lot easier to find an endorsement deal in Edmonton when you're a hockey player than it is in Arizona.
But that's the thing. These companies are national. If you're, who's a random player?
Hold on.
Arizona,
These are not national.
Last I checked, every team in the NHL had the same companies they get equipment from.
And when was the last time you saw an ad for them?
That's not the point.
It is the point. You just said it was a national thing.
Because you're not letting me finish. Connor Garland. Do you know who Connor Garland is?
Who?
He plays for the Arizona Coyotes. If he goes on a podcast or his regional sports channel, and if he goes on there and says, I really like the way my CCM helmet fits, CCM is going to call him up and say, hey, every helmet you want, free for the rest of your life.
No, and I get that, but I'm just saying, I remember a long time ago, like 2000-ish, I would see a commercial on ESPN, national broadcast throughout the U.S., and it's Joe Thornton buying a pair of hockey skates. Even I'm all the way out here in San Jose, it's this Boston player, and it's these guys at Foot Locker or wherever the hell it was, but it was a national ad. When was the last time you saw a hockey player in a national ad?
Well, that's on the NHL.
Huh?
Well, that's on the NHL and on the teams.
Well, it's on and on the player's agent.
Yeah,
get him that deal.
And I know that you may you may crawl out of your skin when I hear this, but say what you want about this person, this player, who has a really good agent.
If you say Mikhail Bodker.
Erik Karlsson.
Oh, what a shock.
No, because I know this is, he's gone corporate, as we like to say.
You like to say.
But look at Erik Karlsson's Twitter. Like, there are numerous tweets where he's like, oh, hanging out at Santana Row, need to get some coffee. Thank goodness I got my American Express card. You may look and say, wow, corporate tool. But how much cash got slid his way just for tweeting American Express?
And you know what? You make a fantastic point, because back when Joe Thornton did that, social media didn't exist. The whole influencer society idea didn't exist. You've just flipped the script on me.
Yeah, it's not.
It's the whole influencer idea, because kids or the people that they're trying to impress, they're not watching a national broadcast. They're on Instagram.
Well, also, who watches TV, right?
Name somebody. I don't know.
Like, right here. If you love cars as much as I do, have a chance to come join me at the BMW M School in Thermal, California. Erik Karlsson tweeted that a couple years ago. Like,
yep.
It's not that the corporate the endorsements are not there. It's that the avenue is different, because
it is.
Like me, if you're watching, say I'm watching a hockey game, I'm watching it on the stream and it just says commercial break in progress. If I'm watching something on
now,
TV,
says that. If you did NHL Center Ice 7-8 years ago, you saw all the ads from the local market.
True, but what I'm saying is it says commercial break in progress on the stream. If I want to watch a TV show, again, streaming it on the computer where there's no commercials, or I'm watching it on YouTube TV and I fast forward the commercials.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think the point you're making is absolutely perfect. And the thing that really kind of hits the nail on the head is that you've got Erik Karlsson making those posts that you mentioned. I remember when Brent Burns first arrived to San Jose, he was like, hey, looking to mountain bike. Anybody know any good trails? Want to meet? He didn't name a trail. He didn't name what bike he owned. He was like, hey, I just want to roll.
Yeah.
So, no, I totally get what you're saying.
But even then, if Brent Burns, if you follow Brent Burns on Instagram, look at that guy's Instagram stories. He's always, propping people up.
Oh, yeah.
Like brands.
Yeah. And so just to follow up on this, and I'm going to need you to vamp on this for like 30 seconds. Reports out of Vegas say Fleury is willing to take a team-friendly deal to remain in Vegas. Now, it's probably a little different because McKinnon, RNH, a little younger. But, again, is this kind of a trend we might see?
I think so, just because of the COVID impact on everything. Like I said, if you want to be somewhere, you're going to have to take whatever they can give you So from the player's perspective, there's kind of no choice there. But at the same time, I don't know. I think that's what it boils down to. The more I think about it, it's all about if you want to be somewhere. It's like, yeah, I'll take whatever you can give me because I like being here so much, and I think that's important, and it always, like, I always just wonder about these players who sign these big ticket extensions when they've never even lived in the city before. It's like, how do you know? So I think what it boils down to is if you like being somewhere, you just take whatever you can get. There's no, well, this is my target and I'm going to go elsewhere. And I think a lot of that, the lack of funding due to COVID, I think has forced that sort of thinking to come into the forefront.
All right. Let's bang these out. Arizona Coyotes named Andre Tournier.
Sure.
New head coach of the Ottawa 67s hockey for the last 3 years, Coach Sasha Chmelevski, and an assistant with Hockey Canada gold medal. Whoa, that big team this spring where he worked with one Mr. Super Mario Ferraro. Could be interesting there. The LA Kings have acquired forward Victor Arvidsson from the Nashville Predators in exchange for their second-round selection in 2021 and a third-rounder in 2022. Does this make things a little more interesting for LA? Like, do you think with that acquisition, it's kind of like, yeah, we've still got some pieces here. We've got Kopitar, we've got Brown, and yeah, okay, Quick is still here, but but the thing is, Doughty's still there. They want to win. Does this accelerate things for them just as coach when you look at their pipeline?
I think so, because, and it should also be said, Rob Blake, their general manager, who, by the way, I think Rob Blake is turning out to be a very good NHL general manager.
I would totally agree. Like, you look at Blake and Sakic and what they've done, you're kind of going, you know what? So, like, kudos. It's the opposite of like what Patrick Waugh did behind the bench or Gretzky.
I think it makes, like, the LA Kings, their plan this offseason is to acquire 2 top 6 forwards. So they're not done.
Yeah.
There's one more coming down. People are saying Jack Eichel. I say we'll see. But this is the interesting, and this is the point that I've made with the Sharks and with the Golden Knights many times over. And I'll ask you this, AJ, just as a person who likes when their sports team wins.
Yeah, whip it out.
Would you rather have a draft pick and use it on somebody who will score 30 goals for you in 4 years? Or would you rather trade that draft pick for somebody who will score 30 goals for you right now?
Yeah, it depends on where my team is at the moment.
Your team is trying to win games.
Oh, well then, yeah, you go for the right now.
My point exactly.
Yeah.
Step number 2. Like, there's this weird love affair with draft picks. First of all, draft picks are magic beans. Let's start right there.
Which Doug Wilson has admitted multiple times. He said draft picks are currency.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people are really in love with draft picks for some reason, but, as we've seen, you can take Milan Mahalik in round 1 and then throw away a 7th on Joe Pavelski.
Well, and I can understand why Doug Wilson would think that draft picks are quote unquote currency, because how many draft picks have the Sharks pissed away in the 2nd and 3rd rounds under his tenure? Hasn't been good. So I can get that mindset.
That's a weak argument to make, though, because Doug Wilson doesn't do the scouting or the draft pick selection. Moving on.
Well, okay, but it's the group that he's employed, and I get the whole idea of like, should we take give up a pick that is an unknown versus something that we feel like is a bit of a known, and I get that. And
also, even if you are one of those people who are in love with draft picks, let's just say, the LA Kings, before this trade, the LA Kings had 2 2021 seconds and 2 2022 thirds. They had an extra of each. So you're taking one of each and you're sliding them over to Nashville for Victor Arvidsson. That's all right. You still got an extra pick in each round. You're chilling.
No. I'm dealing with it.
And I think, real quick, from Nashville's perspective, I think they were a bit concerned that they were going to get bent over in the expansion draft. So better to get something for someone than lose them for nothing.
Absolutely. But this does make me think that LA is maybe looking at their roster and going, yeah, no, we thought we might have been a year away, but no, we might be able to go now.
And if they can, I'm still not totally convinced that they make it happen, but I think they're one of the top teams that could make it happen. Oh. If Jack Eichel becomes an LA King, that certainly accelerates things.
Oh shit! You think?
And it's the Kings have done. They've done really well. Ever since the Sharks kind of dummied them in 2016 and sent them off into obscurity, but since then they've done really good at accumulating future assets, and now those future assets look like they're going to be right now assets. I mean, everybody talks about Quinton Byfield and Andrei Kopitar and Alex Turcotte, yeah. But nobody's mentioned. People say, "Oh, Byfield, Turcotte." Nobody's mentioned Akil Thomas. Nobody's mentioned Gabe Vilardi. Andrei Kopitar is still there,
as is Doughty.
And that's the thing. Doughty, people were sleeping on.
Well, I feel like if they're able to dial back Doughty's minutes just a scotch, kind of like the way they did a little bit with Burns this season, like use him in that could be key.
And that's the thing. Like people were starting to tire of Drew Doughty, but he had a really good year this year.
Slow start, but absolutely.
Yeah, and as we've talked about before, people were really starting to get sick of Dustin Brown. The minute Daryl Sutter got fired, Dustin Brown was back to the player he was before Daryl Sutter got hired.
Makes you think.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
And makes you think that Calgary not going to make the playoffs this season.
And so that's the thing is it's, I don't know. I think LA's done a lot of really good things, and so you say you could see LA fight for the final spot in the division.
Maybe not even the final spot. Like. Could be third.
At first I was a little suspect, but they're going into this offseason with the idea of acquiring 2 top 6 forwards. I don't know about you, but if this is another we'll see take a step back season, you're not trading for top 6 forwards.
Right. And when I say that, and I just realized what I said, I'm like, you're saying like, maybe that final spot. And I'm like, yeah, third, which for most people is the final spot. But that's in my head thinking that, the Pacific and the Central both go 4-4. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think the Central is going to send 5 and the Pacific is going to send 3. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We know the expansion draft is coming up in a couple weeks. The Sharks still need at least one more forward under contract for the exposure rules. But this is something that popped in my head, and I wanted to ask you about it. Joe Pavelski turns 37 years old a week from yesterday. With Pavelski having just 1 year left on his contract, it makes sense for Dallas to expose him, but does it make sense for Seattle to take him and help set the tone and culture for a new franchise?
No.
Okay, then. Moving on.
Because this past year was a shit show for Dallas. It was an anomaly, and by all accounts, they want to be back in the playoff hunt next year. They're not going to expose their best player for nothing.
Really?
Number 2,
you don't think? Okay, interesting.
No way.
Interesting. All right, but that's why I floated out there.
No way. They want to make the playoffs next year. Why would they do that? And
because you have to give pieces away, or you have to expose pieces. Do you think that Dallas is going to say, "Hey, you know what? You had an amazing 2021. Let's throw you a couple more years on your 37-year-old."
No, that's not to say that they're going to extend him. But hey, you had a great 2021. We want you to have a great 2022 so that you can help us get back to the playoffs.
Okay.
They're not going to dump him for nothing, and they got plenty of guys. They can expose. There's so many guys they can expose to fulfill those requirements. They're not even. I wouldn't even trip on it. But also, you're saying help build Seattle's culture. Why are you going to have the face of your franchise be there for 1 year?
I get that, But I still think there's something to be said for what Pavelski can do in a room.
Sure, but again, if you bring in Pavelski and he's the guy in the room and the face of your franchise, and then he's gone after 1 year, everybody's kind of going to be like,
I'm
hey,
not saying
what
he's
happened?
gone after 1 year. I'm just saying that you bring him in to start it. Maybe you sign him to another year deal after that. See what happens.
I just think if Dallas lets Pavelski go for nothing, I think their GM should be fired.
Based on Pavelski's performance in the COVID playoffs in this past season.
But yeah, even
no, I would agree with you. That's kind of the point that I'm kind of trying to make. It's like that's still a valuable piece. Everybody's just like, oh my God, he's going to be 37 years old, and it's like, bitch, have you looked at his stats over the last 16 months of hockey?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like he's still good.
Yeah, right.
And
so good that maybe the Sharks should have kept him.
And Pat is saying as well, if Dallas was even close to healthy, they're a playoff team, and I 100% agree. Their team was shredded by injuries.
The fucking the multiple COVID outbreaks. The state literally froze over for like a week.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of it just seemed like the NHL just kept saying, you know what? Your uphill battle isn't uphill enough. Let's just change that trajectory a little bit.
Well, and here's the thing. Their number one center, Tyler Seguin, played 3 games out of 56. Their top right winger, Alexander Radulov, played 11 games out of 56. Their number one goalie, Ben Bishop, played 0 out of 56 games.
And the oldest guy on the team led the team in goals, assists, power play points. Like, holy crap.
That's what I'm saying. Sagan's healthy, Radulov is healthy, Ben Bishop is healthy,
Why let go of a guy who's already on a contract anyway?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that's such a fan-driven narrative too. That teams should be afraid of players as soon as the calendar flips to 30. It's such a fan-driven narrative that's so stupid.
Not exactly fan-driven. I mean,
no, it's fan-driven.
A little bit, but where do the fans get a lot of their takes? From Facebook, but let's be honest. There have been times when people like Wisniewski or Wyszynski, whatever the hell his name is, those guys, they hear it in different. They are not coming up with these takes on their own. They're hearing these in different hallways. But anyway.
But the thing is, to put a bow on that, why are you going to listen to what a New Jersey Devils fan has to say about the Sharks?
Because he's on ESPN and he has a national platform, so you think he knows something.
Well, you know what? Donald Trump had a national platform, and what happened?
And we just got political. Okay, so Avocado Flight asking, what do you think Thornton's going to do? I think Thornton is going to say, I still want to play, and he's going to hope that one of 32 teams said, okay, would you like to play for us for the absolute bare minimum?
I think he's either going to come back to Doug Wilson with his tail tucked between his legs, or he's going to go to Switzerland. Or those are option number 1 and 2. Option number 3 is some team who thinks that they have a chance at sniffing playoffs. You know what? If you're going to be outraged, you may as well leave now. But cap-strapped team needs some quality. Hold on, cap-strapped team needs some quality minutes on the fourth line. Good guy in the room. Maybe Joe Thornton's a fit for the Las Vegas Knights.
Well, Chief can go play in Europe, right? And say the trade deadline, everything happens in March. He can just sign with whatever team he wants to, yay?
That is correct. As long as he signs before the trade deadline, he can sign and play in the playoffs. And the thing to note about Joe Thornton as well is Joe Thornton is technically a citizen of Switzerland, which means he can play for his team, Davos, and not count for an import slot.
So if you're betting, you're a betting man, give me your take on Marleau and Thornton. Like come Halloween, who are both of these players playing for? And are they still playing for that same team the day after the trade deadline?
I don't think the question should be who are they playing for. I think the question should be, are they playing?
Yikes!
Joe Thornton, like I said,
are Marleau and Thornton in the NHL come Halloween?
Marleau, I would say probably not. Thornton, I would say maybe.
All right. And do either of them are okay? So there you go. Halloween, Thornton no, Marleau maybe.
Other way around.
I'm sorry. Okay, Marleau no, Thornton maybe, and that makes sense. I get that. All right. Come April Fool's Day. Same? Different?
I would say maybe for both.
All right.
Because I could see, maybe Marleau doesn't sign with somebody right away, but if he spends the whole season, crushing it in the gym, I could see a team throw him a contract at the trade deadline because, like we've said before, people say, oh, this guy is only a fourth line player now. And it's like, well, you need players on your fourth line, so why the hell not?
But it's that idea of giving opportunity to a 22-year-old versus a 42-year-old.
But I'm not talking about the Sharks.
No, I'm just talking in general. The league overall. Maybe there's some other team that goes, you know what? We're pretty happy with our top 9, but our bottom 3 has just been kind of like we just haven't been able to. You know what? You getting a guy who is seen it all, done it all, somebody who can be a mentor, kind of some stability on that fourth line. You know what? Patrick Marleau at $750,000 or whatever it's prorated at. Yeah, that's something that we're willing to take a flyer on.
And that's the thing. Say what you want about Corey Perry. Montreal's in a totally different position if they don't have Corey Perry.
Oh, absolutely agree.
Same with Erik Staal. I literally went on Twitter last night and stopped short of calling Erik Staal a statue with cement skates. But he's still been very, a positive piece for Montreal to have.
Dude,
and I mentioned
you have
Vegas.
No idea how much it upsets me that I have to root for Corey Perry.
I've always liked Corey Perry.
I mean, he's kind of the biggest fan.
He's kind of a weasel, but I do generally like him as a player. But the thing, and why I mentioned Vegas earlier, like look at yes, you're gonna say Joe Thornton, his stats last year were above what they should have been. Like he punched up, and I would say that's probably true. But I still think Joe Thornton is a quality, fourth line guy. You can roll him out on the second power play. I think a team who's up against the cap that wants to push for a Stanley Cup will sign somebody like Joe Thornton. Vegas, Tampa Bay, Washington Capitals.
Okay.
Teams like that.
All right. We so have to move on. We are over 2 hours already. This is already the longest show we've ever done. So, quick hits. Condolences, of course, to, and I know that I'm going to mispronounce this, but I'm going to try it anyway. Matiz Kivleniks? Was I even close to that?
I'm not too sure.
All right. Well, you're all aware of it. The Columbus Blue Jackets lost a member of their roster due to a horrific, evidently, fireworks accident. So stick taps to them. Something that Ian Reed pointed out earlier today, will the NHL have to give Columbus an exemption because he may have been somebody that was exposed, and now, obviously, that piece no longer in place. We'll see. A lot of dates have been announced over the last week or so. The Seattle Kraken expansion draft is on July 21st. The NHL draft on July 23rd. Both events will be broadcast on ESPN2, as we mentioned earlier. The list of exposed players should be out by July 17th. It should also be noted that while it has not been announced yet, the NHL schedule for next season, usually that's released within 2 weeks of the cup being awarded. So keep an eye out for that. Wouldn't surprise me if, in fact, Tampa wins the next game and ends this in 5 if we do not see an NHL schedule released before the exposed players list on July 17th. Or the NHL, they love to spend an hour to announce 2 minutes worth of information. Maybe they do both on the same day. I don't know. The Hockey Hall of Fame will induct the class of 2020, which does include Doug Wilson as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks, on November 15th. The 2022 Winter Classic between the Wild and Blues will happen on New Year's Day at Target Field, home of the Minnesota Twins. As predicted by one hockey jerk,
Hello,
Las Vegas will be your 2022 NHL All-Star host.
Can you, by any chance, I don't know if you have the information out in front of you, can you let everybody know when I put that out there?
2017?
No, it wasn't that long ago.
Felt like it.
I tweeted it out October 31st, 2019.
Hey,
now I was off by a year, but I still had it. So
I'm saying.
Just saying to the person who tweeted me and said, "LOL, I would love to know the source."
I got your source right here, pal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, give me a call. My phone number will be on the screen.
There you go. You flipped me with that one. Nissan Stadium, home of the NFL Tennessee Titans, will host a Stadium Series game between the Lightning and Predators on February 26th of next year. And finally, the Heritage Classic Outdoor Game will be played next March, date TBD. So there you go.
I think it's also interesting. Well, first of all, I just want to say, if everything goes according to plan, I will be at the Winter Classic next year.
And
also, I think it's very interesting that the NHL has deferred Florida hosting the All-Star Game and Carolina hosting a Stadium Series game. If I had to guess, by no means am I saying this will happen. If I had to guess, Florida gets the All-Star Game in 2023 and Carolina also hosts an outdoor game in 2023, just because if this COVID season had not happened, those two things I mentioned would have happened this year.
Sir, can you deliver those receipts to my Twitter feed? I would appreciate it. So let's wrap this thing up. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Again, stick taps. Congratulations to Anthony and Jerry. But the giveaways that we are doing over the summer work like this. Subscribe to us here on YouTube, and I will even throw the graphic up for you one more bajillionth time. Subscribe here on YouTube. Follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whichever podcast platform you use. Subscribe on those. Give us 5 stars, nice review, and then send us a screenshot of each one. Your follow on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, whatever, your subscription, your rating, your review. DM those screenshots to @Pucknologists, not Tealtown USA, @Pucknologists, because I don't want to inundate everybody else with I'm not the only one on Tealtown USA. So send those. Each screenshot will be an entry. The more entries that you have, the more chances you have to win, obviously. Doing signed pucks. We're doing jersey nameplates, bobbleheads, mini lockers, shirts, what have you. Anthony won a pristine grouping of baseball cards along with an oversized Owen Nolan autographed card. Jerry got himself a playoff pin along with a not open water. What was the gray one that had the bones in the SJ on the shoulder?
I think that was open water.
No. Oh yeah, no, you're right, because I'm thinking Uprising. Yeah, so Jerry got an open water jersey along with a playoff pin. So those are our first 2 winners. And stay tuned for a little bit later tonight. I did not spin the wheel before tonight. So I'm going to spin the wheel here. And oh, look at that. Lanicle. Our buddy Lanicle has won for tonight. So Lanicle, be reaching out to you. There you go. So congrats to the people that have won so far. If you want to win, that's the way you do it. TealtownUSA.com is your place to find the rest of all of our stuff, including a recent article I posted about Adidas needing to stop calling their jerseys authentic. The ones that you purchase at Dick's, on Fanatics, on NHLShop.com, at the Shark Store. Stop calling those authentic. They aren't. You know what's authentic? The one that I'm wearing. The one that on the back of the tag says Made in Canada. So go check that article. Speaking of Fanatics, It's time for our tweet of the week. Who doesn't love a tweet? And just to show you how much Fanatics continues to suck, this coming to us from Evan Shears. My girlfriend bought me an NHL Fanatics Suzuki jersey. It came Sakuzi. They replaced it when we reported it. And now the replacement's nameplate is already coming off after like a week. They won't send us another one. What are we supposed to do to get an actual quality official jersey? How do you answer this? Dude, Fanatics is shit. We all know this. It's been proven time and time again. There's a reason why the Twitter account at Fanatics Sucks exists. But to make things even worse, like, dude, the quality of the Adidas, quote unquote, Indonesians, authentic, those suck too. I've seen everybody I see, they complain because they're too narrow in the shoulders, and they like these jerseys were built to fit Russian nesting dolls, and people are not built like that.
I just don't think we should be surprised at this point, honestly. I mean, it's going to keep happening. There's clearly, there, and this is my biggest complaint about Fanatics in general, is like, it's just, there's no, like, I think, and where this is the same for wherever you work, not just Fanatics. Like if you work at anywhere, if you work at a store that sells electronics,
so a retail outlet,
you should probably know a thing or two about electronics. If you are the part of the warehouse that puts together hockey jerseys, which you have the license for, by the way, you should probably know, at the very least, even if you don't know how names are spelled, you should probably have a master list.
Here's yes, you should have a master goddamn list. But the other thing is, we've literally seen pictures of photos. Isn't that kind of the same thing? We've seen pictures of jerseys where the nameplate was sewn on upside down. Remember Snossus?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen burns on a jersey sewn upside down. Like, how do you make that mistake? It's just, there's zero quality control. I don't understand why you would spend your money on anything at NHL Shop, Fanatics, whatever. Like, at the very least, you would go through the team store. But here's the problem: a lot of these team stores. I mean, Jerk, I think you're a little bit familiar with this. Is that an Adidas jersey will come into a store, but even though it's Adidas and it's been, it comes from Adidas, it must be pro and blah, blah, blah. And the kit, the name and number, specifically the number, it's shitty vinyl. It's not even tackle twill, even though it came from Adidas.
Yeah, that's the thing, is Adidas has also cheaped on the customization kits for their jerseys as well.
I just feel like this whole thing that started in 2007 with the Edge, and just all of a sudden there's a third jersey when it used to be replica, what the guys were on the ice. And then all of a sudden, no, here's this kind of Indonesian one in the middle that, kind of tries to split the difference. No. Now look, if you're a fan of Fanatics and you're willing to live with the garbage product they put out, dude, no judgment. Go ahead. If that's your deal, absolutely go ahead. It bums me out to see anybody support a company that is that horrible at quality control and inventory management and everything that they fuck up. But if that's your jam, go for it. Just like if buying a Chinese knockoff is your jam, because let's be honest, it's not that different from Fanatics or the Adidas, unless it says made in Canada. So whatever. I'm tired of talking about this at this point. It's just kind of like, you know what? If it doesn't say made in Canada, fuck off. You can follow him at Hockey Jerk, Actually, I should say follow him at hockey_jerk, because on the Pucknologists, we respect everything, especially the underscore. You can follow me at AJ_strong if you have any questions or topics, along with screenshots for your entries. Boom, send them to at Pucknologists on Twitter. Don't forget to join us on our Discord channel where the chat never stops. And you can check out the show notes for the link. Don't forget to join us in just 2 nights. Hockey Jerk, you can't get enough of him. And so you're going to get some more on Wednesday with teal-tinted glasses. So go check that out. This is the final Pucknologist of the 2021 season. We will see you all after week 1 of the Sharks' 21-22 schedule. But keep an eye out for Teal Town Live when breaking news happens with the San Jose Sharks. Jerk, your famous last words until 48 hours from now.
Well, the season was a hell of a ride.
All right, good for you. So, no.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a lot of things we never thought we would see, we saw. So I guess in a way that made it interesting. But interesting doesn't mean good. So
right.
I guess we'll see you next year.
No doubt. My famous last words is, has everybody seen Joe Pavelski's stats this past year? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, whatever podcast app you use. Find everything on tealtownusa.com. Remember to check out our After Dark post-game show that follows every single Sharks game once the season starts up. And that is our show. We thank you very much for listening to a nearly 2.5-hour episode of Puck. Well, to be fair, we went this long because it's going to take you between now and October to listen to this entire show. Make sense? So we thank you for watching and listening to episode 135 of the Pucknologists here on Teal Town, USA. Nothing else happened, right? Like, we're good. Like, there's been no COVID outbreak. Montreal hasn't burned down. We're all fine. Nothing. Feels good. So, final things to look forward to. Again, we're going to have some draft stuff coming up. And once the draft is finished, between the Seattle expansion draft, between the NHL draft, following that very quickly will be a one-on-one with Drew Remenda to get his take on how the San Jose Sharks fared and all of that. The other thing I wanted to call out to everybody, and I think this is a date that Hockey Jerk might have tattooed on his ass. Dude, July 28th, yay?
Yeah, I could see it be a good day.
Yeah, free agent frenzy, my people. Not Canada Day any longer. Not this year. July 28th, free agent frenzy. Expect to see Teal Town, USA either shouting from the rooftops like, oh my God, they did this, or oh my God, they did that.
Well, and I'll tell you this. We are in... we're coming upon a potentially exciting time because, for those who don't know, the window to buy players out of their contracts opens 48 hours after the Stanley Cup is handed out.
Martin Jones.
So,
you know what? Hold on. To finish this up, who do you get to replace Martin Jones? Is it an upgrade? Like, Sheng did a whole article where it was like Cam Talbot. He named like 5 different people, and Braden Holtby. And I looked at it, I'm like, based on what you would have to spend versus what you're already going to buy out Jones, like, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, you might as well just waive Jones, put Kozanash up, and like go, yeah, well, there was nothing better out there.
Yeah,
at least, like value per dollar.
I mean, I look at the fact at how the last 3 years, I'm pretty sure Jones is like 60th out of 60 for NHL goalies in terms of stats.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's here's and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but it's this idea of, say that the Sharks buy out Jones, and what's that hit to the cap? It's like 189, then like 2.1, 2 point something, and then like 176, 176, 176, blah 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 blah. So let's say that for shits and giggles, what's Chief making now? Like 575?
Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, 575.
Okay. So just again, the next couple of years are the ones that matter, and those are the ones that are going to be the biggest cap hit from Jones. So it's going to be close to $2 million. So you're already going to have $2 million down, and let's say that you get Braden Holtby for the next 2 years for $3 million, or $325. Well, shit, you're already paying the same amount of money.
Correct, but Braden Holtby is better than Martin Jones.
But is he that much better?
Yes. Like,
what about Cam
yes.
Talbot?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just keep naming Kudobin.
Yes.
All right then.
My point is, everybody is better than Martin Jones, and that's not me saying that to try and be funny. That's legitimately true.
It's so sad.
And you know what? Haters will say that Braden Holtby had a brutal year this year statistically. You know who had a brutal year? The entire Canucks team.
You are not wrong, sir. And we will end with the final comment. Felix, at this point, this show is going to end when the next season begins. You're not wrong, sir. By the way, I should let you know, if you're fans of the 49ers, I got these jerseys for you. Slide into my DMs, baby. 49ers released their new jerseys yesterday, and they are chef's kiss. Thanks for checking us out. See you in October.